I've got a quick fun one for you today. So Welsh and Scottish Gaelic are both Celtic languages. More than one of you on this channel have pointed out their links and asked me to kind of see what I can do between them. Trees, local to an area that are used over centuries, are one of the things that keeps the most conservative word base that doesn't change much over time. So here are 9 different trees in Scottish Gaelic and in Cymraeg Welsh, and you can see how similar these are. This is Ben Llewellyn. Let's jump into the video. The word for oak is one that sticks out in Celtic languages as something that's deeply linked, and it's probably the most British tree that I can think of, so let's start with that. In Welsh, derwen, and in Scottish Gaelic, derech. And you'll see places in Wales and across Ireland, over these islands generally, that have kind of a word like derry or derren in them, in place names, and that's from these elements that are common to both of these languages. Anything derry is oak. The next one is willow. I've given you a bonus chapter, so stick around to the end of the video for more about the willow tree in Welsh. And hey, if you're liking this content, hit that like button. Diolch. In Welsh, heligen. And in Scottish Gaelic, shellech. Now this is interesting because there's a difference here, and there's a sh at the beginning of the Scottish Gaelic one. Welsh went through a significant change. As I've said at least twice in my videos now, words beginning with S became H at the beginning. And Welsh is it's not as conservative as Irish, which spawned Scottish Gaelic, or languages like Lithuanian or Basque. Welsh went through an extreme period in linguistic change as it was forming out of the Roman Empire leaving, which Irish did not. French kept this S. This is a common indo-european root, so sol is willow in French. The next one, beech. Not like where you go to swim, but a beech tree. In Welsh, fawydden. And in Scottish Gaelic, fawyle. Very similar. And this, like the prior one, is one that's common between a lot of Indo-European languages, specifically the Romance branch, because those are closer to Celtic than the Germanic or Slavic ones. So in Portuguese, faia. The next one, birch tree. You get a lot of birch forests around on these islands, so it's good to know what this is. In Welsh, bedwen. I always think of the word Bedouin, like in Saudi Arabia when I hear this word, and it's a beautiful word, I think. And in Scottish Gaelic, behe, which seems a bit related to a few other words in Scottish Gaelic. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Do you think that word in Scottish Gaelic is related to words like to eat and food? Let me know. The next one was used in the medieval times, especially for making spears, and that's ash trees. In Welsh, onen. And in Scottish Gaelic, winshan. I don't know if I'm getting the first diphthong or vowel combination right. If any of you speak Gaelic and I'm getting it wrong, hey, let me know it in the comments. Anyway, they're quite similar. Just the S bit dropped out of Welsh, which may have been that SH shift that I talked about earlier. They're definitely linked, those two. The word for apple tree must have been quite important when you had less diverse kinds of food. In Welsh, avallen. Aval is the word for apple. And the word avalon probably comes from the Welsh word for apple tree, because back in those days, if you were told of an island paradise filled with apple trees, that would sound quite sumptuous and pleasant. And the word for apple tree in Scottish Gaelic, Crivulon. they say apple tree, they add the tree bit. And in Welsh you get coed yn afal, apple tree. But I of course prefer to be a bit more formal and stiff with my language because it's more pleasant, I think, and jolly. Elm tree is the next one, and we think that the native Britons before Christianity held elm trees quite in high esteem, inducing almost a spiritual connection to their groves in some cases, but we're not entirely sure. In any case, in Welsh, llwyfan, and this is the predominant spelling. There are other variations all about the same spelling. Llwyfan is the predominant one. And in Scottish Gaelic, leven. There's kind of a palatalization after the L there that I'm not quite good at, but so these are almost the same word, except Welsh has that at the beginning that it added to a lot, and that's probably Latin influence on Welsh, by the way, but you don't get that in Scottish Gaelic. Hazel trees. I like hazelnuts. Anyway, collen is the word for a hazel tree. Now the place in Wales, Llangollen, is not the llan of the hazel tree. There was a saint named Collen, which is a bit different. Collen. And in Scottish Gaelic, Caltin. And that long L sound with a T, occasionally you get that in Scottish Gaelic in a word that's similar to Welsh that has the sound. So, and Norse as well, Old Norse. Words that were kind of ucht. In Welsh, all those sounds are related on a spectrum. So those two are quite similar, aren't they? Let's go to the next one. One of my favorite words in Welsh is the word for a holly tree. Deck the halls with... Okay, so in Welsh this is celinen. But it's we usually for holly, this is an odd one, we usually use the plural more often, even for the singular. In most cases we say celyn, which is a very beautiful word. There's a town just northeast of Caerdydd named Celyn. I just love that word. And in Scottish Gaelic, cúla. Cúla. The emphasis on the first bit. Cúla. And you can see how these would have changed over time. The initial syllable in Welsh was much lighter, not as heavy. I hope you can see from those that words that are much more conservative in their base, they changed very slowly. And even though these two languages, even though they are further apart than, I would say, Portuguese and Romanian, further apart than that, easily. They're very similar in many, many cases. And if you learn both, I wouldn't be surprised if you did not find links where you did not expect them. Because one thing that makes Scottish Gaelic so interesting as a Welsh speaker is that there seems to be a substrat, an underlayer, vocabulary-wise, of words that came, or even structures that came, from the old Pictish language, which was, we think, basically like Old Welsh, but without any of the Latin bits. We're not sure, but this injected a lot of influence into Scottish Gaelic, which you don't get in Irish. Scottish Gaelic and Welsh are very interesting because they overlap in some peculiar instances. I'm not going to go into that much. This was just to be a short video. Just to give you a bit of an extra bonus here, one of my things that I enjoy doing is naming places or giving places Welsh names in England or the other parts of Britain that don't appear to have them yet, because, well, Welsh was the native language of this island, and there should be a Welsh place name for every single place on it, in my opinion. And one of these places is the Fens in East England, which we know that there were Welsh speakers in this area at least into the late 9th or early 10th centuries. From holding out in the marshlands, who didn't get quite swallowed up by the initial Saxon settlements. They vanished, but they held on quite late just simply because the landscape is it's unique, and it would be difficult to penetrate before it was drained, of course. And having been to that part of the world, the Fens, I've seen what it looks like, and I've walked through it, and you have willow trees kind of poking up out of almost a semi-broken seascape. It's very beautiful, especially in the late evening when there's kind of glides of sunlight across it. And in the morning. Probably more in the morning. In any case, I named the Fens in Welsh Môr Helyg, Sea of Willows. The Sea of Willows. Môr Helyg. Nice. So, diolch yn fawr am wylio. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.